This is Paul Simon with Social Media Today, and I'm here with Todd Wheatland, who's the Vice President of Marketing and Thought Leadership at Kelly Services. And we're talking about incorporating social media strategy into your marketing campaigns and as part of your strategy. And I wanted to ask Todd about the difficulty of doing this, particularly for larger companies.
Thanks, Paul. I think to your question, there are some unique challenges that a very large entity faces when confronted with social media. Many have already crossed that bridge some years ago, but I think there's an inherent fight, there's an inherent contradiction for a large company that spent decades preening itself and controlling its messages and being very the opposite, if you like, of transparent, being very opaque about its activities to ensure that it can keep a consistently positive message in the marketplace. There's very real discussions that go on in large companies around whether or not they are, in fact, the right structure to be able to succeed in a social media-led market. For this very reason, can they really be real enough to present an honest face? Can they be transparent? Can they show their flaws? One of the realities of social media has been that people really don't want to connect with someone who thinks they're perfect or pretends that they're perfect. There has to be a natural ability or a genuine attempt at honesty in the marketplace. And that's something that really goes against those decades of grooming and bureaucracy and layers of control that companies have been so effective in building over the years. As I say, many companies have already moved through that be real layer, but I think there's a legacy that I continue to hear about when I speak with colleagues in other companies that is still very much a reality. So that first step, that be real thing, I think is the first mental hurdle for companies to be able to then let go, and that is to have the people and resources in place to really empower them enough to act in real time. And that confidence really comes from the transparency they've created in that first step. If you're transparent as an entity, then you are showing your real values, and those real values are what's attracting talent to the organization in the first place. With that talent, you're then, because you are confident that they understand your values, that you're confident they can represent your organization, you're much more likely to let them go out and be your voice in the marketplace and react in real time and respond knowing that they have the confidence of the organization behind them because they are speaking the values or acting out the values of the company. So sorry, Paul, are you going to jump in there?
Well, yeah, so that means not only are you opening your doors figuratively and letting people in with the transparency that's required of being involved in social media, but you need the resources to be able to carry it out effectively. From a marketing perspective, what does this mean to you, and what's the biggest challenge here?
Well, I think on that very point, I think one of the fascinating things, given that Kelly is a workforce solutions company, I think one of the fascinating things in discussions I have with people is there really is this huge blurring between consumer marketing, B2B marketing. That's what you and I talk about in a B2B space all the time, how similar B2B has become to B2C. But in terms of talent attraction, in terms of recruitment, there's also a huge blurring between employer branding and any other activity of branding. The same need for transparency within an organization and how it embraces social media has to flow through to the reality, the picture of transparency it paints to anyone who's hoping to ever work for that organization. So I think there's a real, transparency would be the theme I would pull across those three positions, whether it's B2C, B2B, or recruitment marketing, if you like, or talent sourcing. Those three things have a very common theme of being real in terms of social media play and empowering the organization, not just those who are official social media people in the organization, but empowering the whole organization to act confidently with the values of the organization. That transparency really is the key to attracting those people in the first place. And you just can't attract them without it. This is a very real issue that companies are facing today.
Well, okay, and given that, how do you maintain a consistent and a unique message through the content you're delivering through your various channels?
Well, I think that I think a company has to spend a lot of time understanding its position in the marketplace. So if you take a traditional content-led approach into the market, for example, so who's our audience? What are their personas? What are what sorts of needs do they have? How are we addressing those needs through content development? How are we then communicating that content into the market? How are we engaging and connecting with the right people and shifting those messages and those stories around? I think one of the challenges we faced in content distribution, and I think many companies also do, is that the broader you go with your messaging, the more distribution channels you have, the harder it is to keep across and have a genuine presence in those social channels. It's very easy to connect different services to automatically send feeds into different social media channels. It's very easy to have a broadcast-only mentality into a particular community or forum, but there's a huge difference, as any of us would have seen if they followed their friends or their now ex-friends feeds on LinkedIn or Facebook as they've been auto-posted 20, 30, 40 times a day. There's a severe limitation to the credibility of automating that activity, and it's very difficult when you're in an organization that's trying to promote many spokespeople, many experts, or many thought leaders for an entity. It's very difficult to establish a consistency for those many voices in many places. I don't think we have it. I don't think we have it right. I think we've learned a lot about how to do it well. But one of the key things I would say is pull back to the absolute bare minimum of outposts that you can maintain with credibility, and pull your resources around doing an extremely good job in those places where you choose to play and can play consistently.
So don't spread yourself too thin. Great advice.
That would have been too short, Paul. I was trying to go for a longer answer for you there.
That worked wonderfully. Thank you much, Todd.
Okay.